spent more time thinking about that, I think. What's the worst case scenario if you quit? If you make it, you got to get out of here because you now have to honor the extra innings that you have that your father did not get, and you will not squander 1 day, 1 hour, 1 minute, 1 year behind it. It doesn't matter. This job is not worth that to you because you don't know what your father would have done if he had more time. But if you get more time, what the hell are you going to do with it? Wait a minute. I put in my time. I put in my work. There's something else out there for me. I don't know what it is.
Welcome back to the 5-Minute Career Hack Podcast. And I've got the incomparable Kenyatta Turner with us today. And what she's going to cover, not at first, but what she's going to cover in this episode, I promise you is going to be a game changer for you. So welcome to the podcast, Kenyatta. How are you doing today?
I am fabulous. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here with everyone. Hey, everyone. And
Right?
you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's such an honor. I've watched you on LinkedIn for some time now, and it's been a pleasure seeing what you're doing. And I'm so excited to talk about the topic that we're going to talk about today. And we've got a special treat for the audience as well. If you hang around to the end, and then there's probably going to be a part 2. So hang on. You're going to be thoroughly impressed with what you learned today. I promise you. So let's get right into it. Tell me, what's the number one reason at the midway point in someone's career that they want to change?
They're bored. They're just bored. If it's a midway point, they've been probably doing it 20 years. You know what I figured out when I left my career at midway point? It was about 20 years. And
Ooh.
I didn't know that it was a thing until I started going out and networking, and everyone would tell me, they would say, "Oh, I'm doing this now." And I'm like, "Oh, what were you doing before?" And they would say, "For about 20 years, I did whatever." But then now they're out networking. So I just think we all got bored in some kind of way.
You know
I
what?
don't know.
It seems so simple, but it's so true. Our brains are wired for novelty. Like we need new
Mhm,
experiences, new things. Some people call it your midlife crisis. I don't know if it's a
mhm.
crisis. I think it's just a function of needing something new, something challenging, something just like
Right,
when we first started that
right,
invigorated us. So I
right,
think what you said,
right.
we get bored is so true. And if we can't find certain things, and I guess that would be my follow-up question,
Mhm.
if you're not prepared to change your career, your profession, or start a side hustle, entrepreneurship, whatever that might be, what are some things that you help individuals with to find some joy in what they're currently doing?
Mm. So I'm going to back up to my initial question or the
Yeah.
initial answer to the question about them being bored. Not everyone gets bored.
Yeah.
Some people will stay in a job for 50 years. They won't change a thing. So it's almost like it feels like everyone gets bored, but there are some that literally do not want the change. They're wired to be
Mm,
content with doing that thing. So to change it for them actually could cause them anxiety, right?
mm,
But I feel like that's a certain percentage,
yeah.
right? So but most I think leave because they're bored, but then some would never leave because they don't want the change at all. That's why they're still there, wondering why they're still there.
That's
So
good.
even though they may think about something different, they won't seek it. So to answer your other question, I call it behavioral alignment.
Mm,
You're wired to do things in a certain way. I'm wired to be expressive and communicate and be in front of a microphone or be in front of people and engage and have conversations and be creative and spontaneous. If I'm able to do that, that brings me joy. So
mm.
I'm already going to be trying to do that in whatever job or career that I'm in. But if I'm in a position where I don't just get to do that and I have to find ways to do that, that's a problem because I'm going to be trying to do it anyway. So that's what I do is I help people understand what is that joy? Like what is that thing your behavioral zone of genius? Man, you just better go do that.
Right, because working with your side piece, on the side, like just totally like trying to act like don't nobody know you got a side piece. You know how that goes in the relationship world. It
It
don't
don't
last
work.
for long.
No.
People are going to
No.
find you out. You got a whole other family. No,
Yeah.
people are
And
gonna find out.
that's true though. Think about that. Think about how many people in jobs right now got a whole other family. You know what I mean? They don't, and they're pretending.
Mm,
Maybe because the money's good, Maybe
Yeah.
it's because that's what their parents did for a job.
Mhm.
Maybe it's because that's what they've always done and they don't really know that they're capable of more. It could be because they're waiting for a pension. It could be because, it's conveniently located 5-minute drive from their house and they don't want to sit in traffic. I mean, think of all the reasons that we just stay where we are when there is no joy. And I call that dying on the vine. You're like dying on the vine.
Man. And and that is ultimately, YOLO, right? You only live once,
Hmm.
right? But ultimately, is that how you want to live? And I believe that for the audience listening, if you're finding yourself in a place where the reason why you tapped into this episode is because you want to understand why, number one, all of a sudden this has erupted inside of you. Well, there's probably something
Hmm.
really small that's been creeping up for a while that you've
Hmm.
tried to put at bay and tried to ignore. But that's what we're gonna talk about today. So you landed in the right place with Kenyatta. So Kenyatta, tell us how you got into this. Like, how did you get into helping people?
Oh my goodness. Well, I started working at a college when I was 18 years old. So working full time at a college. And most 18-year-olds aren't working full time at a college. So
Right.
if they are, they're there part-time working in the coffee shop or something like that, right? Like that's not their full-time gig. So
Mhm.
that was something that I didn't anticipate that I would find a career in post-secondary education. And I was at that same college for 13 years. So I grew up around growth and development. If you think about what happens on a college campus, there's students that are there who are excited, bright eyed and bushy tailed. They come in like, ooh, I'm going to get a degree. And then only 42% of them nationwide graduate. That's like the stat the last time I looked. That's horrible. However, that's the truth. It's hard to get through college. And then you have the people who are employees. So they're there for a whole different reason, right? They're trying to grow in their career. They're trying to get promoted, move laterally, whatever. I mean, they're doing career stuff. So there's two different camps, very different cultures, both of them, but they get smashed together in this college campus where the employees are there 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week, like I was. And the students are there almost as long because sometimes it's the safest place for them. And they've got classes and studying and all that. So all I knew was personal growth and development. All I knew was professional development. All I knew was, hey, we have a goal, we have a deadline, we have a thing we're trying to accomplish or trying to help someone accomplish. And what is it going to take to get there in the face of all the things, right? So that's all I knew is growing up in this environment where I was the director of every department, pretty much except for financial aid. So that is my background. And decided, when I got to the point that I realized I was at that 20-year mark, I didn't know that was a thing, but I was compelled to leave the industry. And quite honestly, it's because I turned 39
Uh-huh.
at that time. So I'd been working in that industry since 18. And that was the age my father was when he passed away. He was 39.
Mm.
So here I am at 39 with a 20-year career that I had. And I wondered what he would have done if he'd had more time. So, like you mentioned, the whole you only live once kind of thing, right? Like I'm sitting here thinking, he's gone. He didn't even get to 40, to 50. I'm going to be 50 in a month. So, he didn't even get to that age. And it dawned on me how young that was. And that, if I've been doing this for 20 years, here is the question: are you going to be sitting at this desk 20 years later? That
So
was the
th-
question.
so sitting there thinking about your father,
Hmm.
thinking about approaching that milestone birthday, as well
Hmm.
as how many years you'd already put in, at that
Hmm.
point, that
Hmm.
one question changed everything for you.
Everything. That it was a
Wow.
clarifying question that changed everything. And I quite honestly didn't think I'd live to be 39.
Ooh.
I thought that I'd be dead by then. Now, why would I think something like that? Like, where did that even come from? Well, it came from the idea that I thought 39 was old. Girl, I thought 39 was old when I was 16.
We
Okay.
all did. We all did. We all
Yeah,
did.
he was my dad. So I'm thinking, oh, he's old dude. You know what I mean? No,
40 is the
listeners,
no 20 is the new 20, right?
39 ain't old, man. Like 50, I'm 50 and that ain't old, right? So to me, to have reached the age, I looked up one day and I said, oh, I'm going to be 39. I thought that was old and I feel like a baby right now. And that was another thought. I felt so like there was so much more for me. So those of you who are listening who are going, wait a minute, I kind of feel like that now too. Like I'm halfway through this career piece, but I know it's not the end game for me. So the question really came in, well, if this isn't going to be the end game, because I could have stayed. I could have stayed. Okay. I was poised to actually probably be a campus president. That's what I thought I wanted. Campus president, travel to other campuses or whatever. And I said, oh, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. I'm already working 50, 60, 70 hours a week. If I become a campus president, they're going to try to squeeze like 5 more hours out of me somehow. Then they may double my salary and that might be just fantastic. But wait a minute. What's most important right now? Life became more important. And that's what some of you are probably thinking about. You're like, wait a minute. I've put in my time. I put in my work. There's something else out there for me. I don't know what it is. So anyway, that's what I started thinking. And I took 10 days off. I never did that. 10 days off, staycation.
Mm.
I just chilled. I went to the park. I went to coffee with people. I didn't know people went to coffee in the middle of the day. You know what I mean? I took my sister's kids to the jumping gym place or whatever. I was like, this is what people do when they're not at work 80 hours a week. You know what I mean? This is fun. Anyway, during that time, I came up with a revelation. I said, I'm out. I said, I'm quitting. And I don't know what I'm going to do, but I want to start a business because people have businesses and I can have one too if they can have one. So I didn't know what I was going to do. I had no clue. Listen, people listening to me, I'm not saying you should do that. That
Right.
is not,
Same thing for me.
I,
I'm
yeah,
not recommending
we're
it. It's
we're
not for the faint
not
heart.
recommending. It's not for the faint of heart, let me tell you. However, what I will say is that when you become compelled, when you know there's like a burning desire within you that you cannot deny, you need to listen to that. Listen to it. Now, what I heard was quit your job. Quit your job. Kenyatta, get the heck up out of here immediately. Because you may wake up 20 years later and still be here. And you have more to give. More to give. But you don't know how, but there's something there, right? So anyway, that's what happened. I literally went to my boss. I gave like a 6-week notice. I didn't know what I was going to do afterwards. I didn't have any plan, but I'm going to tell you that I called my mother when I was having this thought. And I said, hey, mom, I think I'm going to quit my job and start a business like you. You have a business and I think I'm just going to quit. Now, I didn't expect the answer she gave me. I expected her to say, girl, you better keep that job. What are you talking about? You ain't quitting no good 6-figure job. What are you, crazy? You know? But she said no. She said, it's about time.
Not what you was expecting.
Not what I was expecting. She said, it's about time. She's like, Kenyatta, I know you. I've known you your whole life. I know who you are and I know what you're built to do when you decide. And she goes, I was just waiting for the day you would call and tell me you were done building other people's lives in that way. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like building other people's empires, really. And my company's called Freedom Empire Consulting because it really was. I sat down, I said, I have helped a lot of people build a lot of empires up in here. You know what I'm saying? Where's
Right.
mine? You know? So anyway, I left. Here I am, 10th year in business. And now I love to work with those exact same companies and people so I can help them figure out what that thing is that I did
Mm.
not know then. I know I now have a way to just do it and tell them. And so, yeah, anyway, long answer, but that's how I got here.
And I think one of the key things, there was 2 things that really stuck out to me. Towards the end, you were just saying, like, now I can, help guide people through.
Mhm.
Because, once you've been through something like that, when you've had that whisper, because I had a similar whisper, bet on yourself. It's time for you to bet on yourself. Like, it was very clear. There was no confusion. Didn't have a plan either. I think that's super important that you can now use that because I don't think any experience that we go through is just for ourselves. So I think that's
True.
super dope that you're doing it. I
Yeah.
think the other thing that you mentioned is, whether that be your mom, for those listening, someone else, a close friend, a spouse, whatever that might be,
Mhm.
having someone that believes in you around you in your camp is everything.
Yep.
Because at that point, even though you were super confident in what you were doing, you knew you were doing it. That's like loading a gun and firing when your mom tells you, I
Mhm.
was waiting on you. Like you ain't doing nothing but running through that next wall in front of you at that
It's
point.
seriously because it gave me the understanding. It affirmed what I already was feeling, right? By someone who I obviously
Oh my
trusted
gosh.
and respected. So, and my sister, same thing. Now someone who's used to having a jobby
Yeah.
job, I call it. She had a jobby job. She was more apprehensive, but she's wired to be more apprehensive. We go back
Right.
to the behavioral piece. My sister's very reserved. She likes stability. I'm a risk taker. So is my mom. So it was
Yeah.
no surprise that my mom's like, oh yeah, girl, get out of there. My sister's all, do you have a plan? You know what I mean? Of course she would ask me that. And of course I'd be like, nope.
Yeah. And that's so important, and we talk a lot here at the 5 Minute Career Hack about having a board of directors, and I call it my eco triangle after Phil Jackson's
Mm,
the triangle offense for the Bulls and the Lakers. I'm a huge sports fan, so I created
yeah.
my own for my board of directors. But I
Mhm.
believe there's 3 components to it, but one of those components is to make sure you have someone on your board of directors that is looking out for those risk-taking opportunities for you as well, that isn't afraid, that will give you that feedback in the moment about, well, have you thought about this thing that probably seems risky, but here's
Right.
possibly a way to go. So having, like you said, someone like your sister who's going to probably help you navigate getting to profitability fast in your
Yes.
business, right?
Yes.
But also having your mom who's saying go, or you never even get the chance to work on profitability, right?
Yep. I
I
needed
think
to
that's
hear
so
both of
cute.
them.
You needed both.
I
That's
needed
so
both.
good. So
Mhm.
having those type of people in your corner, I think, while that's not necessarily why we came to talk together, I think is a valuable, valuable piece. If you're having those feelings, you're having these ideations about making a career change, doing something different, starting a side hustle, getting a side piece, or whatever you might
Yeah.
want to do, right? You need some people around you to help
Mhm.
you nurture that sensation, that feeling that you have in your
Yes.
spirit. You need someone there that you trust,
Yep.
right? And then second, that kind of can spin it from different angles, and
Mhm.
preferably someone the opposite of your personality.
Oh, yeah.
It
Oh, yeah.
helps.
Because you
That
can't have a
helps.
whole bunch of me. I need
Yeah, gotta have
mm.
some balance. Gotta have some balance. And I think that's such an incredible story. And one question before we get into the surprise for the audience, one more
Yeah.
question for you that I think our audience could really benefit from is just hearing about, if we back up just a step, when
Mhm.
you asked yourself, when you had that life defining, I'm not even going to call it a career defining moment,
Oh, yeah, it was life defining.
when you asked yourself that question and didn't know what you were going to do,
Mhm.
right? And you gave the 6 weeks, you took some time to kind of rest, recharge, reflect, whatever
Mhm.
that might be. What were some of the things that you did during that 6-week period of time? I don't know if we talk enough about this in the coaching
Mm.
community, but once you were like serving out your notice on campus, meeting people as well, what were some of the things that you felt like were critical to you thriving in your business today during that 6-week period?
The 6 weeks before I actually left.
Yes. She's like,
Um, you mean things to, like, help me get prepared for my business?
yep.
Nothing.
She said,
It wasn't anything I did.
she's
I mean, I probably had some thoughts around, well, I was probably thinking like, what are you gonna do for a business? Okay, so check
mm,
it out. It wasn't like I had a brilliant business idea that I was leaving to go pursue. That's why I say I don't recommend you do what I do. Okay, those who are
yeah,
listening. But if you have this thing you cannot deny, then you're gonna be pulled anyway.
yes.
Okay, because it's one thing to have a plan and be like, oh, I'm gonna start a business and start a coffee shop or whatever. No, it was like, I don't know, but I
Mm,
cannot be here.
mm,
So my thoughts were, well, what happens? I'll tell you what I thought about. I said, look, if you get out there and you can't find a business, like you can't figure out what this thing is you want to do. And I will say that I thought I was going to sell a bunch of my old Etsy clothes on eBay, and now what's called Etsy. That's what if I can say anything, that was probably the brightest idea I had. And I still have those same clothes right now.
that one
Because
didn't get off the ground.
I sold 16 items. That was enough for me to know that I could do it, and I literally am restarting this exact store that I started back then in
Oh,
2014.
wow.
Yeah, because I still have all the clothes. Like that's a whole nother story. So anyway, um, I was like, you could sell your all your vintage clothes. Like people want those things these days. It's my wardrobe, but they're like, people want them. I'm like, you can open up a little boutique shop or something. Now I had no plan to do that necessarily, but it seemed a feasible idea. Now, but what I was thinking is, okay, look, Kenyatta, if you get out of here and you can't start a business that's successful enough to sustain you, right? What's the worst case scenario?
Mm.
What's the worst case scenario? I spent more time thinking about that, I think. What's the worst case scenario if you quit? Well, I thought, well, if you quit and you can't do it, can't make it, you just get another job. I was like, oh, that's it? Now, some people, especially if you're listening to you right now, you're like, oh, it's not that easy just to get another job. And maybe it isn't. But what I said to myself at that time is, well, you get another job. And if you can't get another job and you have 2 degrees, computer information systems degree and a master's degree, and if you have 20 plus years of executive leadership in post-secondary education and you're smart as a whip and you can't get another job, then there's something bigger going on out there in the world. Right?
Right.
Because and that's it's probably out of your dang control. So
Right.
so and then if that's the case, well then you'll deal with that when that happens.
Right.
But I did say, Kenyatta, are you prepared to live out of your car if you have to?
Mm. Worst
And I
case.
just and I decided I was. I
Mm.
decided, well, yeah, because do I need a house? I don't know. I mean, for me, sitting at that desk was now giving me hives.
Right. It felt like death.
I couldn't be there. I said, if you live to your 39th birthday, which is April 5th, if you make it,
Right.
you got to get out of here because you now have to honor the extra innings that you have that your father
Mm.
did not get. And you will not squander 1 day, 1 hour,
Yeah.
1 minute, 1 year behind it. It doesn't matter. This job is not worth that to you because you don't know what your father would have done if he had more time. But if you get more time, what the hell are you going to do with it?
Yeah. There's something extremely just jarring, I would call it. I lost my father too, much older,
Mm,
but it's something about understanding, in my case, everything he sacrificed
mm,
for me, did for me to provide the endless world of opportunities at my fingertips.
mm.
To then say that, this little thing I'm doing that's like super easy or just kind of easy to get grasp is everything that he had hoped for. Now, he didn't
Mm.
know what it was going to be, but
Right.
the goal was for you to have anything you wanted. You
Yeah.
can, he's probably told me 2,000 times, you can do anything you want to do.
Yep.
Probably told me that more than he told me he loved me, honestly, because it was
Yeah.
just constant. You can do
Right.
anything you want to do. And so,
Yeah.
to your point, how you mentioned that I'm not going to squander because I
Mhm.
don't know what he would have done. And I kind of have a similar feeling of I have
Mhm.
to do absolutely any and everything that I think he could have potentially even tried to imagine. And even the
Yeah.
things he couldn't imagine that he tried to position me for,
Yep. There you
right?
go.
That part is, once you have something like that, and not saying that everybody's gonna have a story like that, but when it could be your kids, it could be a multitude of things that get you to a place where you're like, there's more. And that was the other thing you said earlier, for me,
More for me.
for
Yeah.
me.
For
Keyword,
me.
this isn't, what they told me my career path should be. This
Nope.
isn't what my degree said I should do. This isn't what my parents said. This isn't
Mm-mm.
what this person said, or this job said, or this trajectory in the industry, or these economic statistics. None of that. It's for me. And if you can think of it, you can have it. So
Yep.
I think this is a perfect point to tell the audience what we're doing next. All
Hmm.
right. What we're doing next. So you want to definitely tap back in to the next episode. Part 2 is going to be Kenyatta basically telling me about myself. I'm put it just like that. The
Ah!
I took the DNA assessment just yesterday, and we haven't talked about it with one exception right before we started recording, but she's going to cover my results with me. And the reason I wanted to do this live with everyone is because I felt like it's important to understand the coaching part after you take an assessment, because there's thousands of assessments
Yeah.
out there that you can take. But I feel like having the coach side by side with you is super important in the process. And that's why we wanted to do it live with you and see how it affects me at this point in my career. And again, I've taken all the top assessments throughout my career, but this is the first time I'm doing it like this. So make sure you tap back into the next episode, part 2, with me and Kenyatta. Thank you so much for sharing today, Kenyatta.
All right. Thank you for having me, and you are welcome.
All right, awesome. We'll
See you
see
guys
you
next
guys
time.
next time. Absolutely. See you next time.